Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I'm starting off my videos today by showing pictures of lightning here, and this is the last 24 hours of lightning across this section of the planet here. Over 315,000 separate strikes. Things have been very stormy up in parts of the Canadian prairies, getting into parts of Montana, North and South Dakota, and of course very, very stormy down here. But things will be changing across the western United States because of this trough that's developing here, and I expect to see several days in a row of a lot of thunderstorm activity in the Pacific Northwest. And why we're talking about lightning is because of maps like this. This is from blitzertongue.org. It's a map I really want you to check out. Blitzertongue.org shows you global lightning strikes up to real time. You can zoom into specific regions, and this is a map that I was looking at 5 years ago today, right now. And that was because 5 years ago today, my dad was actually struck by lightning in northern Wisconsin. He was there with my mom on her birthday, ran outside to get the car for her to take her to breakfast, and lightning struck a 100-year-old pine tree, ran right through the pine tree and into his leg and threw him about 8 feet, knocked him unconscious. Thankfully, like 90% of all people that are struck by lightning, he survived this event. But just to make sure that we're all aware of the dangers of lightning, because the Pacific Northwest, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, you guys are in for some storms over the coming days. Remember, each one of these strikes contains well over 1 billion volts of electricity. Some of these strikes can get over 300,000 amps. And they happen very, very quickly. This particular video is one of my favorite. Tom Warner gave me permission to show this. It shows you both negative and positive polarity lightning strikes. The negative polarity strikes are the ones where the bright flashes go up, and the positive, like the ones you see coming off of these towers over here, the bright flashes actually go down. You're actually just seeing here the stepped leaders. Lightning actually goes very, very quick. In this particular video, there's one channel right in through here that actually gets struck 16 separate times. And this entire video lasts just 1/3 of a second. Yeah, that's right. It's shot at 9,000 frames per second, which means if you're a slow blinker, you would have missed every bit of this. Well, the reason why we're talking about that is because there's a pattern change. Up until this point, the month of June has been very warm across much of the western United States. We made some major advances on accumulating heat units, growing degree day units, and you're seeing here the anomalies through the first 2/3 of the month of June. Well, the pattern is changing, and it's going to do a couple of things. In terms of changing temperatures, yes, but watch what it's going to do to our moisture as well. Now, a couple of weeks ago, this was the drought monitor that was released on June 13th. These come out every Thursday, but the data are only valid through the Tuesday of that week. We got one last week on the 20th, and you can see that really only slight changes in parts of the Pacific Northwest here. But I think this map is going to look much better the next big drought monitor we get, not this week, but next week, because the data that's going to go into this coming drought monitor is only going to go through today. We got some big rains that are coming. We still are dealing with the deficit in soil moisture here. And in my video on Thursday, I will show you the latest we have from the teacup diagrams from Hydromet. We're also going to take a look at the reservoir levels down in California, where soil moisture values are actually still above average. So we're going to take a close look at what those two things are. And by the way, if you're only watching my videos here in the western United States for the West Coast, remember, we've had some very, very stormy conditions here in the midsection of the country. And for some folks, that's delayed a wheat harvest. And that's very important for wheat farmers here in the Pacific Northwest. So just want to put that out there. But the change I was talking about is right here, and we talked about it a lot last week. We knew that this upper level trough sitting right here was going to be coming in. And remember, it's always downstream of a trough. So the trough axis is here. The ridge axis right now is sitting here. And this area that I put a circle on is going to be seeing some pretty, well, interesting weather coming up. We're going to get some details in a few minutes. Meanwhile, the rest of the country has very weak flow, and we're going to be watching a big ridge build into the midsection of the country, but it's at the expense of a trough out west. And we're going to need to see the impacts of that trough. So I want to start off by showing you an animation, just looking over the next 10 days, going every 6 hours, looking at total accumulated precipitation. And you can see the flow, see the trough building in here like this. You can see it dipping in here, and we're going to be bringing, at times, some very heavy rainfall, especially to Montana. Now, in the beginning, there's still a large area of high atmospheric pressure sitting here, sending all this moisture around, but that's the name of the game for the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, California, as is very normal for this time of year, high and dry. So with that as the narrative, in the day here on Tuesday, which is the map that's in the upper left-hand corner. You're going to see it in a few minutes. We're going to watch this whole area for these storms that are going to be coming up. Remember, the flow is going to be doing something like this. You'll see the trajectory in those storms soon. Once we get into the overnight hours on Tuesday into Wednesday, we even have the Storm Prediction Center picking up on a slight risk through this part of Montana, and that expands in the day on Thursday, so a much larger area of Montana at risk. But stormy week ahead for the Pacific Northwest. While California, you're far enough south that this trough really isn't going to be influencing your precipitation patterns much at all. So I want to show you the high-resolution rapid refresh model. This only takes us out to midday on Wednesday here, but that's by design. But you can see here, you can actually see the flow. I mean, can you just see the circulation here and how the moisture kind of ejects right out of the west coast here, straight across parts of Oregon, Idaho, Montana. And this is just the beginning. This trough is very slow to move east, and as a consequence, we're going to get a multi-day thunderstorm event here. What does this mean? You're going to have to watch the radar very carefully to see who is and who is not getting the rainfall. Now, for those farmers that are right now on the edge of harvesting that wheat crop, some of this rain that might be coming through parts of Oregon and into parts of Washington, there could be that $1 million rain that comes in and helps things out. But unfortunately, I'm expecting quite a bit of stronger thunderstorm activity, so keep a close eye on that Blitzer Tongue website I pointed you to at the beginning to see where that lightning is located. Now, once we get kind of looking a little bit longer term, I'm going to play for you the European model here and kind of show you what I mean in saying it's going to be a stormy week. Tuesday morning, getting into Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning right here. Now, you're going to just see it pop green. See all that? That is just, well, the atmosphere kind of allowing for the air to be lifted, producing a lot of thunderstorm activity. And I just took you out this Saturday. So that was it. That was Wednesday through Saturday. You can just see the storms in that upper level trough that's sitting here. Now this finally gets out of the way once we get into our weekend. And the flow slowly begins to change by Monday. Here's Monday into Tuesday. Yeah, some more storms early next week. But after that, things will finally start to break down a bit. But we've got a stormy next 7 or 8 days really kind of shaping up for the Northwest. And so keep a very close eye on that, okay? Now, this is what the flow pattern's doing. See that big trough sitting over the west? We don't shake that really until about July 4th or 5th. And it's going to be around for a while. And even after that, it's really just going to transform. So you can see it digging in here Wednesday of this week, Thursday, Friday of this week. It is just a persistent feature there, bringing in a very stormy week coming up. But like I said, look at what happens around July the 3rd, 4th, 5th. You start to see it moving a bit back to the west. We're going to start to see the overall flow of the jet stream change a bit. And what it gets into doing is doing, again, like we talked about in the bigger video that came out on, on Monday morning, it kind of tends to bring that trough here, and some ridging starts to work its way into the west, which means we're going to get a rebound in temperatures once we get into the day 10 through day 15 pattern. I'll show you that in just a few seconds here, all right? What do the temperatures do? High temperatures just in the next 6 days. Let's animate this out from the National Digital Forecast Database. Are you ready? Look at this. Tuesday's high temperatures. Oh, look, right in the Yakima Valley here in the Columbia Basin. We got mid to upper 70s, low 80s. When you get over to California, we don't get above 95 degrees until we get into the San Joaquin Valley here. The Sacramento Valley is on the cooler side of this. Triple-digit heat as we normally expect down here in southern Arizona, getting up into the desert in California. But as we move forward, let's just get rid of that drawing there. Look, we see that highs on Wednesday. Look up the northwest. We've got 70s on tap. Maybe parts of the Snake River Valley getting there into the low 80s. But even in California, look, we've got low 80s. We've got temperatures there in the San Joaquin that are trying to get out of the low 90s. So this is overall going to be a pretty pleasant week, I think, for a lot of us. Thursday, same story. Look at that's probably going to be our coolest day of the week, because as we move into Friday, we start to see a slight rebound in temperatures here. This map is for Friday. So Central Valley of California all the way up to the northwest, we've got pleasant weather happening. But did you notice this? While you are cooling off, look at the heat surging into the rest of the country here. And we are desperate for it, just so you know. But we got this nicer cool down coming for a lot of us in the Pacific Northwest, and stretches down into California. Let's keep going though. Friday, this is getting into Saturday. Nice weekend setting up here for much of California into Sunday. And then we start to get back into more seasonable temperatures by early next week. Remember, I told you by about that time, July 2nd, 3rd, the pattern flattens back out again. We kind of shake off that trough. Now, just to put it into bigger perspective here, next 5 days, look at the cooler bias we get to hang on to out west. So that is certainly going to be, in some locations, welcomed, like in California. But getting these warmer temperatures back into place soon is going to be important just for the progress of our growing season. Days 6 through 10, things tend to go back over toward a much more normal pattern you see here. And that's at that time, remember, the jet stream is kind of doing something a bit more like this. So the trough kind of, again, moves a little bit off the coast, and that really gets rid of that big bullseye of cooler temperatures that we saw over the northwest. Now, just before I show you the 11 to 15 day, I at least want to show you this. With the cooler weather we're expecting in the northwest, notice that our evapotranspiration rates here, total evaporation, comes down from where it normally is this time of year, especially in the Columbia Basin, where we can evaporate about 2 inches of water a week. Well, we're now coming much down here, closer to between 1 inch and 1.5 inches. Same thing for the San Joaquin and Sacramento Valley in through here. Look at the colors. You can see that we're hovering right in this area, and sometimes this time of year we can evaporate anywhere between 2 and 3 inches. Where the heat stays on, of course, we're evaporating much more than that, but so we've lowered our evaporation rates due to the slightly cooler weather that's coming in. But like I said, I want to take you out to day 11 through 15, and at that point, what are we seeing? We're seeing a pattern done something more like this, where this ridge tries to come in, and we go back over to our warmer temperatures here. Once we get past the 4th of July, well, really once we get past the 3rd and 4th of July, sometime around then, we start to bring in these warmer temperatures back to the western United States. Okay. Now, since we're talking about warmth, I just want to keep a narrative going that we've had throughout, the last at least 10 days or so, and that is over in Europe. The heat wave is still on, and over the next 5 days, it is going to continue to pound much of Europe. We're talking about setting some new all-time records for the month of June here. So keep a close eye out on that, because we certainly grow a lot of crops in the western United States that are in competition with Europe, and they are under the gun for some heat. So I'll give you a full update globally, my update that'll come out on Thursday morning. By the way, don't forget to tune into the long-range update that'll come out midday tomorrow. And we at Nutrien Ag Solutions want to thank you for your attention. Hope you have a great week and look forward to all of our forecast content coming out at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Have a great week. Thank you.